His body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood, thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed, cause the NCPD will not let that go. Got another blackout in Santo Domingo. Net runners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid. While over in Westbrook, trauma teams scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Cyberpunk 2077. After 7 years, 7 long years of waiting, it's finally arrived. Cyberpunk 2077, the game that the entire world has been waiting for. Oh, how quickly another falls from grace. What on earth actually happened here? Cyberpunk 2077 was setting up to be the game of the generation. Damn near everyone, and I mean everyone, was looking forward to this game. Fans of genres from all over the place. You had FPS fans, RPG fans, open world adventure fans. Cyberpunk 2077 promised that it would scratch the itch of all of these different genres and provide a story that only CD Projekt Red really would have been able to achieve. With the fabled Witcher 3 under their belt and an incredibly generous consumer-friendly mentality that was put on full display from their previous title, what on earth happened to 2077? Their flagship title would set them up as the premier RPG developer after BioWare and Bethesda fell from grace thanks to Fallout 76 and Mass Effect Andromeda. Everyone now knows just how much Cyberpunk is a mess. I don't really need to cover that here. And if you've listened to the majority of the reviews out there, you would think that it was really just the bugs that needed polishing, and then underneath those bugs was going to be this phenomenal game still, even now, after everything has been laid bare before us. I suppose that you could say that obviously, yes, the bugs definitely hampered this. But if you get past the bugs, the one thing I want to know is this game actually a masterpiece? If you polish this game, am I going to be presented with a product that is flawless, like boom, or even if not flawless, a phenomenal RPG? I'm gonna actually try to forego talking about the bugs because you've seen them everywhere. There's memes about them all over the place, and it's really just beating a dead horse by that point. But at least coming back to this channel, I want to try to inform all of you about whether or not this game actually might be worth the purchase, and if this game, after all the bugs are gone, is this game going to be great? And sadly, I would probably say no. Even if you ironed out the bugs, I do not think you'd be left with a game that could be considered excellent, or honestly, by that point, even really all that great. And I know, I can already see that everyone is going to explode at the statement of this, but I think it's true, and hear me out from this. CDPR really dropped the ball in what they promised for us as fans. And I think that as a fellow gamer, it's important that we talk about what's really going on under the hood outside of just the broken graphics, or outside of just the broken gameplay. Let's start with something positive. Without a doubt, Cyberpunk 2077 excels in the graphical department. Skyscrapers are massive, and apartment complexes give you a sense that you are part of something far larger than yourself. The rain falls in absolutely massive downpours, and you see steam rising up out of manhole covers and garbage littering the streets. It's ugly, but it's ugly in the most beautiful way possible. When you see these neon lights that shine these reflective, glowing blues and greens all over the surface, it looks gorgeous and incredible. However, unfortunately, outside of the graphics department, in the other means of presentation, I began to see the genie that kind of existed behind the curtain, so to speak. I've played Cyberpunk on my PC, and my computer is decently beefy. I've got a 2080 in there, so I mean, I'm not pushing everything perfectly. However, with the DLSS on, I can run everything at ultra, and it doesn't really ever look that fuzzy, and I'm sure you can see that really here in the gameplay. And I never really lost frames after I kind of turned down the ray tracing a bit. So I didn't really have too many performance issues. The bugs also I could kind of overlook because I was mainly focused on the story and completing some of these side quests. However, what began as this like nice kind of, oh, this is a fun open world that I can play in, I really started to realize just how lifeless this game really was. I slowed down my questing, running from point A to point B, fighting criminals and gangs and that try to take over the world. And as I just explored and I tried to interact with it, that was when it all really began to fall apart. Cyberpunk 2077 does not have much depth in its open world. I would argue that the open world does not even need to honestly exist at all. This thriving metropolis feels like it instead is filled with mannequins rather than actual people. The artificial intelligence for civilians around the world, the cops, and everything, it's all just pitiful. Vehicles driven by NPCs will just get stuck and wait for an obstacle to get out of their way rather than try and move around it like you would find in a game like GTA or Red Dead. Or hell, even a Bethesda game, which is renowned for having terrible AI. They'll at least be smart enough to try to move around whatever is the problem. There's no response whatsoever to any actions that you make with these characters. Drawing a gun is not going to bring about really any kind of response. These NPCs will not react to much of anything at all. Shooting off a gun will make them flee, but otherwise feel free to jump on people's faces and dance all over them because in truth it's not going to do anything. There's next to no NPC interaction, unfortunately, and that was where I began to wonder, like, okay, what actually is going on here? This game, I wouldn't hold this game up to such a high valued point if CD Projekt Red didn't promise that it was going to be the future of open world games. More examples are, you can jump on top of cars and they won't do anything. Standing in front of vehicles, they will just wait patiently for an eternity for you to move. You can follow an NPC all day, but don't look away from them because at any point, if you do look away from them, they could just immediately despawn. And sometimes they will just despawn from you. They'll just despawn right in front of you. So this makes me wonder really what even the purpose of it being open world was. Did they make it an open world because they genuinely believed that after The Witcher 3 they could make something even more immersive? Or were they just trying to kind of make this game a list of check boxes? You know, no open world game has ever been perfected. There are examples out there of games that just do open world a lot better. Hell, CD Projekt Red's previous game, The Witcher 3, managed to make the open world feel more alive. I couldn't help but think while playing this, though, that if this game had been worked on more in a style of like Deus Ex, I think it would have actually done a lot better for it. You know, you have multiple ways to complete an objective, but your missions are linear in the sense that you know where you're going and what you are going to do, at least in the newer ones. I haven't actually played the original Deus Ex, so I can't really say, but I can't really grasp why they went open world if they realized, or did they ever realize while making this open world, was this too much for them to handle? Moving on to the shooting of the game, like, the shooting within the game, it's okay. And that, unfortunately, is what I can say for all of this game, is that it's just okay. It feels like this game was just made as a list of check marks that they had to cross off, just to say that they had it in the game, but that was really it, because other games have these things, so Cyberpunk 2077 obviously needed these things. The gunplay is definitely better than an RPG like Fallout. The mechanics are a little bit tighter, however, it falters by being too similar to Borderlands and Destiny, I think, in the gunplay. The weapons, they do feel meaty and powerful. However, the enemies that you face will often be bullet sponges. You can dump one magazine after another of this highly powerful future weapon into this fleshy body, and the enemy gang members will just stagger, and you'll find numbers flying off their head with little damage to them. I understand that they wanted to go something similar to The Witcher, however, I'm getting more of a Borderlands vibe, and even Borderlands did this significantly better. When playing Borderlands 3, even though you're seeing numbers get chunked off of this guy as you're shooting them, they really do chunk away. However, in this game, they just kind of take it. And now grenades can knock them over on their sides, and so can a shotgun, but they'll generally kind of just get back up a little bit later. Now, I'm not super deep into the game, and I have heard that you get some more powerful weapons, but still, even so, you're supposed to grab somebody with your first impression of the game, and this unfortunately does not really do that in the gunplay department. The guns do feel powerful when you shoot them, but they don't do damage to the enemy. They sound great, but they don't really hurt the enemy. And while the shooting responses and mechanics do feel tight, it's honestly hampered by that bullet spongy kind of nature, unfortunately, that you find in that game, and other games just write it off better. Halo, for example, has specific mechanics where if you dump all these magazines into an enemy, their shields will flare up, but as soon as you get those shields down, there's a fleshy alien monster underneath it that as soon as you pop it in the head, it's gonna fall over. But that doesn't unfortunately happen in Cyberpunk, and the weapons still don't feel as meaty and strong and fun to shoot as something in Borderlands. So if you don't have the good shooting mechanics, then the stealth is probably one of your next best bets, right? Stealth was another mechanic that they did implement into Cyberpunk 2077. However, it also is kind of weak. I was kind of excited at the beginning. Unfortunately, the sneaking mechanics that originally caught my attention had quickly dwindled on my first mission. I snuck behind an enemy and grabbed the hold of them, and it was just such an immediate, quick animation, right? There was no sense of struggle, nothing to show you like how you were interacting with the world. I just kind of grabbed him, and then you just kind of carry him away, and he just kind of sits there lifelessly as you were just dragging him around and doesn't even try to resist. It kind of actually gave me some original Crisis vibes when you grab the one guy and he just kind of sits there and just looks at you terrified. But the enemy just submits to your grapple. They don't try, they don't do anything. The enemies also have no real field of view, so you can sneak up behind this guy, grab him, carry him to wherever the hell you feel like it, and then just snap his neck. Now it's supposed to be like this timer where the stronger you are, the longer it takes for them to break free of your grasp, and if they have meteor armor, then you can, like, you'll have to fight with them a little bit, or you'll have to increase your, like, strength stat to grab those guys. But otherwise, like, they just accept it. They just accept that they're gonna get caught. They don't say anything, they don't react in any way, their peripherals suck. You just kind of grab these mannequins and just carry them away, break their necks, and then throw them away. And there's also like a system that allows you to knock out an enemy, kill them, but I don't really see what the difference is or why that needs to even be a thing. Does it give you more XP for knocking them out versus killing them? If so, it doesn't show it, and if that's the case, like, is it just because they want you to say, oh, you can be merciful rather than twisting the heads off of everybody? I don't know, but ultimately with the stealth, it wasn't very complex. It wasn't very difficult. The most challenging part of the stealth aspects might have been with the security cameras. And that was kind of fun to mess around with, and you can actually draw the enemies away by making like these certain sounds, right? You can hack, and then suddenly it'll draw them away if you make this pinging or something, right? You can basically make something malfunction and they'll run off and take a look at it. But it, again, just was not really there. Going into the hacking, I was hoping that this was going to be one of the more fun aspects of the game, and it is. You can make people commit suicide, and you can quick hack their brains and fry them and make them go blind and a few other things, and that's fun, and it slows down time when you pull up this quick hacking thing, so you do kind of feel like this master kind of soldier in that regard, or this mercenary. But I haven't delved super deep into the quick hacking enough, but like it's still just like that might be the best bit of it. And my friend, she says that you can just kind of quick hack your way to victory in this game, which is kind of funny. But from what I've played of the quick hacking, that's like the only fun part. The melee is absolutely the weakest part. I wanted to kind of utilize a katana and chop through the enemies in like these cool, slick fashions, and the melee is really just, you have a light attack and heavy attack that staggers them, and you have block. And then if you use that block at the perfect moment, you stagger the enemy. And if you hold down the button and swing, and they're blocking, you stagger them as well. Like it's weak. It's honestly kind of weak. It feels weaker than even something like Skyrim. And with so many different melee weapons existing within the game, I was really hoping that we were going to get something that really felt like a lot heavier and meatier than we got. Overall, I can't really say that I'm interested in getting into any kind of conflict within this game due to this being the case. Combat feels a little bit like a chore, and the open world is lacking, and with all these things, something has to kind of stand out, right? The driving was also highlighted. How's that? How do they handle? Fine, I guess, but they kind of also slide all over the place unless you actually have a controller, which is what I've been playing with, and driving with a controller makes it a little bit better, but it's no Grand Theft Auto, right? You're not gonna get phenomenal handling out of this thing whatsoever. So that also kind of felt meh at best. that's honestly the best thing that I can say about it. The vehicle designs look cool, and the interior views and the exterior views all look excellent, but much like everything else, it doesn't really provide much to keep your attention. I did not wish to do so, but I found myself fast traveling by the end after I got over the glamour of the city, because driving around in it just felt kind of weak, unfortunately. Lastly, we've got the story. Let's be real. We all knew that if there was one part that Cyberpunk 2077 was going to get right because of CD Projekt Red, it was going to be the story. And for the most part, they do deliver. Cyberpunk does not really delve too much into the deeper themes of the genre, which again is another missed opportunity. But what it lacks in meta-narrative, it does make up for in its characters. I found myself surprisingly attracted to the character of V, in the sense of like how they wrote him or her. They actually did a really good job of taking V and humanizing them in some sort of way. You can make them vulnerable, which was surprising. You can give them flaws like a fear of death or losing friends or wanting to find a place to belong in a really big world, or you can make them cold and callous. It really is kind of up to you, but I did like that aspect of the character. This made V feel far more alive, and the other cast of characters in this living futuristic dystopia also do fit the bill pretty well, also in terms of like their characterization. Each interaction with the characters feels natural and flows well into the next sequence of events. Walking into a seedy bar only to call out who you're looking for with a guard for them to step aside is exactly what I was hoping for throughout this game, and it does actually capture that idea that they were going for, this whole immersive first-person perspective where you were there in the moment. It does do that very well. And when you spend time with these characters, getting to know what they're all about and why, you do see that CD Projekt Red has not really lost much of its writing edge. They're not as strong as The Witcher, unfortunately, but we did also have a bunch of books and 3 other games to get used to these characters. But for this first outing with this cast, I do give them credit. I haven't gotten too far at the romance options so far. I did decide to pull off one of the hookers that you can get from the side and see kind of what that's like, and it provides you with this quick 5-second sequence, and then I'm like, oh, that's it? Okay, whatever. So that's something that you can kind of quickly write off. I can't really vouch for all of the romance options yet because I haven't really explored any of them. I was gonna go with Judy, who looks to be one of them, and she's really cool. So I hope I get to spend some more time with her, but other than that, there's not really, again, many interactions with this game. You can't interact with anybody. You've got your fixer who will go and tell you what needs to get done, and there are some standout characters, and you can do a few things for them, but again, there's just it feels so empty. This game, it feels like it's lacking so much from the final product that we were promised that we were going to get. It had all these branching paths, all this different stuff. So far, nothing about that seems to have come to fruition, and even the opening segments of the game are really short, and then you're immediately thrust into the exact same spot, and they don't really highlight where you're from. Not really. At least when I went the street kid, they've not really highlighted on the fact that I'm from the hood. They don't really seem to care. So, where do we go from here? Overall, everything about this game was entirely overhyped. Unfortunately, with such an emphasis on the bugs, reviewers and other gamers seem to be overlooking every other part of this game. CD Projekt Red promised us the future in next-generation open-world games. That's literally exactly what they said. And that means that it's going to put itself in direct competition with other open-world games out there, like Red Dead, GTA, and the Elder Scrolls and Fallout franchise, and others. But unfortunately, this game, it falls short even of the previous work that they did back in, 2015, I think was when The Witcher 3 released? 2013? No, 2015, I think. And it's a shame, because fans were dying for this game, adoring its development and praising the creators for how honest and fair they were allegedly being. However, after review embargoes and these incredibly shady and shitty practices, enforced crunch periods, and not being honest at all with what was removed from the game, Cyberpunk 2077 unfortunately carries this stain along with it, and it's going to carry it for as long as it's around. They could pull a No Man's Sky and completely revamp the game from the ground up. It's entirely possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do try to do this, because right now, CD Projekt Red is absolutely in the shit. They need a monumental turnaround to try to fix this, because as of writing this little discussion piece / review thing, everything about CD Projekt Red is on fire, and it looks like also they're about to get sued, or maybe they are getting in a lawsuit right now from investors. It's all really bad. So they need some good publicity. So they probably will try to revamp this game. They have to. Otherwise, I don't even really see us getting a Cyberpunk 2. And I personally wouldn't be surprised if we saw CD Projekt Red go dark for a long time after this. And it's a shame, too, that CD Projekt Red went down this route. They had everybody basically in their corner. There were those that were saying from the beginning that this was going to be overhyped trash, and none of us really wanted to listen to them. And I don't think it's trash, but I definitely think that what we were provided was not at all what we were promised, and what, honestly, I think we should have believed. I don't really criticize any person at all who got swallowed up by the hype of this game. I tried to keep my expectations reserved, and even I was saying that while I don't think that we're going to get the next most amazing thing ever, I definitely think we'll get a good, strong, competent game, but I don't even think, based on everything you've just heard, that we've even gotten that. But I can't blame them for believing that we would have gotten that. They made The Witcher 3, which was a slamming success, and their practices with their users, their clients, us, was really well received. And so they were riding on those coattails. And then they showed off everything in the game, and it looked real. It looked legitimate. And the gameplay features were really there. And then they had that back access press release thing where all the people of the press were talking about how absolutely amazing and stunning this was. I don't even know if that was real. Like, did these people actually really play this same game? Was the game more polished then in that vertical slice? Did they have stronger, smarter AI? Because, like, in the first 5 minutes of playing this game, I realized that, wow, this combat and this stealth and all of it just feels really janky and really clunky. And I didn't even need the full open world to, like, get that feeling in the back of my head that it wasn't as great as it could have been. So, I mean, either they were playing on a vertical slice, or, like, what happened there? Like, we had every reason to believe that this game was going to be great. Like, I don't normally get hyped for games, but this one did feel like we had a reason to get excited. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, it fell flat. And as it fell flat, all of the good faith that CD Projekt Red built up over these 7+ years, and also one with The Witcher 3, it all has fallen completely on its face, and even after the bugs, I don't think we're going to have that product that we wanted. This game overpromised and entirely under-delivered, and I don't know, I guess that's it. We'll have to see where this goes from here. Thank you for taking the time to actually come and check out my video. I've been gone for a very long time, as I am rising from the dead now, you could say, right? As Cyberpunk 2077 came out. This game was just big enough and bad enough that I had to get into it and come back from the dead and talk about it. I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this video. If you have listened all the way through, look forward to more videos. They're finally starting to come back. I have a lot to share with you since I've been gone, and I look forward to being part of this community again and seeing where this goes this time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.